What's going on, guys? Marcus here. Welcome to the episode. Today we're going to be chatting about back pain. Everyone's experienced it at some point over the course of their life. So we're going to dig into the main factors at play that impact the health of your back, as well as exactly how to sort your back out. So first of all, let's define the difference between acute back pain and chronic back pain. So acute pain is pain that shows up for a shorter period of time and goes away. So for example, if you tweak a muscle in your back moving in a funky way, it may bug you for 2, 3, 4 days and then it's gone. That is acute. Chronic pain is something that impacts you over the long term. So a lot of folks experience chronic low back pain that varies in severity. However, this might last over the course of months, years, and potentially even decades. Maybe it comes and goes, it flares up, subsides, flares up again, subsides, and so on. But chronic implies long term. What we're going to be addressing in this episode is more so the chronic side of things, or at least pain that's sticking around for longer than it seemingly should. The odd tweaked muscle essentially sorts itself out, but we're going to be chatting about how to square away the chronic or longer lasting back pain today. The first thing that folks tend to think about in regards to back pain is quote unquote poor posture, and how you position your body in space over the course of time can play into pain. However, it's much less of a factor than most folks think. So for example, there are tons of folks with what visually looks like terrible posture, but have zero pain. And there are people that you might think, man, they stand up so nice and straight and they experience back pain on a regular basis. The body is just so adaptable. And if you want to test this idea, just go to one of the local areas around your home where folks regularly run and see all of the different running styles. Some folks are super heavy-footed and you can hear them coming a mile away. Some folks heel strike, some folks run on their toes, other folks shuffle their feet. Some people look like they're running with their upper bodies more than their lower bodies, which is always interesting to see. Some people's knees do all sorts of funky things as far as caving in or bowing out. Some people's feet point in, others point straight, some point out. I've seen folks where it looks like they're basically spraining their ankle with every stride, but apparently they're not. There are 1,000,001 different running styles, and you can't say that X style means you'll be in pain because there are tons of people running around with their knees caving in like crazy, heel striking, and just basically looking like they're struggling with absolutely zero pain. Meaning, if you don't have perfect posture, it doesn't necessarily mean that that is what is causing your back pain. It could be playing a role, but it's definitely not a clear-cut case. So now that we've touched on the posture piece, I want to talk about two of the most common mistakes I see when it comes to relieving back pain. The first one is not moving enough. If you're not hitting 10,000 steps per day on average, I'm not surprised in the slightest that your back hurts because you're simply sitting too much. And your body, specifically your back, is adapting to your sedentary lifestyle. If you get nothing out of this episode except that you commit to getting 10,000 steps per day for the next 30 days, I'd be very surprised if your back pain didn't completely vanish. I was experiencing a ton of low back pain in the first couple years of starting my business, and looking back now, I know why. I was sitting too much because I was working 10, 12 plus hours a day. In between bouts of work, I was hanging out on foam rollers and using lacrosse and trigger point balls in my low back and hips, and it did help moderately. But as soon as I committed to moving more, my back pain completely went away. And fast forward 8 years, and I've been pain-free for almost a decade now. I would have been so much better off using that time that I was hanging out on the foam roller to simply head outside for a walk. Shit is magic when it comes to balancing out your body. The second most common mistake I see is babying your back. I worked as a personal trainer for over 7 years, and there were other trainers in my gym that refused to deadlift with their clients because they thought it was dangerous for their backs. Now, let's take a step back and look at this logically. If you want a stronger, more robust shoulder that's injury resistant, you're going to strengthen it via exercise. No one would say that in order to have a more resilient shoulder, you should not strengthen it via resistance work. But for some reason with the back, folks are so afraid to get injured that they literally stay away from the very thing that would make their back more injury resistant. By not challenging your back via weight training, you don't decrease injury risk, You increase injury risk because you're actively keeping your back weak. It's like anything. You don't decrease injury risk by not using something. By definition, you actually make it more likely. The saying, if you don't use it or lose it, applies here. If you baby your back and refuse to challenge it, strengthen it, and use it, it's going to get weak. So if you want a strong back, use it. Deadlifts are an amazing exercise, squats, overhead presses, push-ups, pull-ups, various types of rowing movements, do it all. I'm sure you heard of the concept of a weak core, and so people start doing all sorts of ab exercises thinking that they need to strengthen their core, which absolutely can help, but then they neglect 50% of their core because a core isn't just on the front of your body. The core is your entire trunk, meaning your back qualifies as your core as well, specifically your middle and lower back. And that is exactly what movements like the deadlift strengthen. So instead of doing crunches on crunches on crunches and neglecting your back, pick up a deadlift bar. Now, it's worth mentioning that you might be afraid of doing something like the deadlift because it's definitely going to challenge your back musculature-wise. However, invest in someone or something to teach you how to execute the exercises properly, and you're golden. If you're not in a position to hire a personal trainer, my YouTube channel has tons of exercise demos with voiceovers of me explaining lots of exercises that you can access for free. So priority number 1 to bulletproof your back is by getting 10,000 steps in every day for 30 days, and I promise your back will feel so much better. This might even get you 100% back on track. You might not even need to go to the gym or formally exercise your back. This could be enough. I've seen it work for tons of my clients, and it worked for me personally as well. Now, if step number 1 doesn't clear up your back entirely, step number 2 is to implement strength training via compound basic movements like the deadlift, squat, overhead press, pull-ups, and other rowing movements. Now, a few additional things to potentially look at. Your furniture. If you're sleeping in a bed that's super soft, that could be contributing to your back pain as well because it puts you in essentially too comfortable of a position. Basically, the stiffer your mattress is, the better, within reason. A more rigid mattress may take some getting used to, but you'll adapt quickly and you'll sleep better overall as a result. And of course, it will help with your pain. Also, sitting in certain positions on couches for too long may contribute to back pain as well. I find for myself personally that I need to shift and move around fairly often in order to keep my back feeling limber. So this is something else to be aware of. Special therapies like massage, chiro, dry needling, etc. may support the key habits, which are walking and weight training, but on their own, these modalities likely aren't going to be all that effective. You can think about it like supplements. Sure, if your diet is shit, you might benefit from some supplementation, but your diet, which is a much bigger input, is still shit. So these therapies are sort of like a band-aid approach, and you need to address the core of the issue, which is what you're actually eating. Supplements are like the sprinkles on the icing of the cake, and the same goes for these therapies like massage, chiro, etc. Speaking of nutrition, if you've got a specific type of back pain where it feels more nerve-related, nutrition is going to be an amazing tool because eating funky foods is going to inflame your body and therefore ramp up nerve-related back pain. So favor single-ingredient foods. Make sure to prioritize digestion because that's where the bulk of the inflammation in the body stems from, and this should support your recovery in a huge way as well. So just to summarize, step number 1 is to walk 10,000 steps per day for the next 30 days. I can say with about 99% certainty that this will probably be enough to clear up your back pain completely. But if you still got some pain after 10K for 30 days, step number 2 is to start a strength training routine 2 to 3 times per week where you exercise your entire body. So full body sessions and 20 to 30 minutes should do the trick. It does not take much. Of course, you can implement step number 1 and number 2 at the same time, but be sure not to skip to step number 2 because weight training on its own will likely not be enough to clear up your back, meaning there's no way around the walking piece. You've got to do it if you want to be pain-free. Now, if you're hitting 10K daily and you're strength training 2 to 3 times per week and you still have pain, take a look at other factors in your life, such as furniture, your bed, etc. And if you modify those things and you're still experiencing pain, go get your back examined by a professional because there could be some structural stuff going on, maybe from a car accident or something like that. If you're interested in applying for one-on-one nutritional coaching and or workout design with me, you can click the link in the description below or head on over to n1fitness.com/coaching. Follow me up on Instagram at n1fitness and feel free to friend me on Facebook at Marcus Sadu. And lastly, be sure to hit the subscribe button on whatever platform you're using. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I will catch you on the next episode. See ya.